What we're doing is we've embedded a navigator physically in the courtroom. We have another court navigator who's remote, and those folks are available to do intake with tenants who contact them, or landlords. They can also help landlords through the eviction process or with rental assistance and those sorts of things. They can also determine whether tenants qualify for legal assistance based on their income and where they are in the eviction process. And then for those tenants who do qualify, we have a roster of contract lawyers that we've worked with who are on call all day, every day when court's open to take inquiries from tenants who may need legal assistance and potentially representation.
You've been in your role for about 4 months. The demographic that you're working with, give us some idea who it is.
Well, we, other than being tenants who are facing eviction, we really don't know. That's been one of the big black boxes, I guess, of evictions in Pima County, is that we don't have demographic data on the people who are facing eviction. And so what we're doing as part of this program is we're collecting data from everybody who interacts with one of our navigators. We have a demographic form that we're collecting that data so that we can be able to analyze and make sure we're reaching the right people.
The people that you have been working with, are they all related to the pandemic?
Well, I think everybody's been impacted by the pandemic. Certainly, there are evictions that don't involve non-payment of rent, that they're for some other breach of the lease, those kinds of things. What I'm seeing, and it's just anecdotal at this point, we've only been operational for just over a week, is we're seeing a lot of people coming in for non-payment cases where the landlord and the tenant might still benefit from our rental assistance program, but for whatever reason, the process hasn't been initiated, or they haven't moved forward with the process enough to stop the eviction. So we're hoping to catch those people and help them through the rental assistance process to avoid the eviction judgment against the tenant.
When you go in representing a client who's facing eviction, what are some of the things that you could say on their behalf that buy them some more time?
So what our lawyers can do is, first of all, they can give qualifying tenants a brief legal consultation for anybody, whether they really have an issue that is justifiable or not. And they can help negotiate with landlords, and that's another benefit to having a lawyer available to you. What lawyers can also do is make sure that the landlord has complied with all the procedural requirements that apply to an eviction case, which can be complicated and are there to protect the tenant, and to provide process to the tenant before the tenant can lose their housing. And so even in a case where the landlord will have the right to evict the tenant, they still have to follow that process, and lawyers can be there to make sure that's happened. There are additional processes that have been put in place during the pandemic by the court system, and the lawyers can make sure that the landlords are following those processes as well. And then finally, for cases where there is an issue that's contested and there's a trial, the lawyer can provide that representation at trial.
What's been your experience with landlords during this time? I mean, how are they working with their tenants?
Well, it's anecdotal. It's just what we've seen in the last week. What I'm seeing is a lot of willingness by landlords to negotiate. The landlords want to be paid, and they have, if the rental assistance process is successful, they have the ability to be paid back rent up to 12 months and another 3 months going forward. And so it's obviously in the landlord's financial interest to get through that process and get paid. And so what I'm seeing, and again, it's just anecdotal, is an interest and a willingness by landlords, tenants, and by the eviction judge to try to find a resolution that gets the landlord paid and keeps the tenants in their home.
And there are still tenants who could be evicted, correct, despite this moratorium?
Sure. So there are a number of reasons that landlords can evict tenants for material violations of the lease and other reasons that don't deal with non-payment of rent. Those folks are not covered by the CDC moratorium, and so if there is a valid eviction for one of those reasons, those folks can still be evicted even during the moratorium. And we are seeing a number of writs of restitution served every month for those cases.
What sorts of things do you have to prove to fall under that moratorium criteria?
To fall under the moratorium criteria, you have to meet the income requirements and be COVID impacted. And basically the tenant it has to be a non-payment of rent case. So the tenant has to be able to complete a form declaration, which the CDC provides, attesting to the income requirements, the COVID impact, and the fact that it's a non-payment case.
How great is the need here in Pima County, given what we know now?
Well, we know that the need in terms of the ability to pay rent and those kinds of things is really substantial. What's different now from normal times is the amount of resources available to help landlords and tenants with that back rent is enormous compared to what it is in a normal non-pandemic year.
Okay. Andy Flack from Pima County, thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.